Well, we have some news.
We're debt free.
No, I'm pregnant. What's up, guys? It's the Cheapster here, and today we're going to be talking about our debt-free journey because the news is we're debt-free. I would scream it, but it is like midnight right now, so we can't do a debt-free scream right now.
We're debt free.
We're debt-free. I'll just put those side by side and then amp it up like 50%.
We're debt free.
So we're going to talk about our debt-free journey and all the stuff we learned along the way and all the hardships we had along the way, and give some advice to you guys if you're trying to pay off debt. So I wrote out some questions for us to talk about our debt-free journey. So the first question is where the debt came from. So the debt came mostly from credit cards from Elizabeth. She is a spendaholic. She's always just spending.
No. That is not true.
No, the debt came mostly from my college. My college was really expensive, and it was about $90,000, I think, when I finished. That's about how much I ended up having to take out in loans. Actually, that's about how much my balance was, I think, when I finally finished school. And I even tried to save some money. I took some online classes, tested out some stuff, and even lived off campus my last year, which was the only year that you were allowed to. So I tried to save as much as I could to cut it down. But yeah, I think I finished still with about $90,000. And that was even with paying some of it off along the way. And that was with a scholarship too. So it was very expensive. Yeah, I know a lot of people are in the same boat with college debt coming out of college. It's very expensive. So I was 23 when I finished college, and now I am 28. So just old. I'm so old. Oh gosh. I do kind of feel for the kids today that have to decide to go into college. And I mean, when you're 18, I really had no idea. And everyone's telling you oh yeah, you're going to make all this money when you get out of school. It'll be no problem. Don't worry about it. And of course, even if that is the case, you still want to keep it cheap. I didn't go to become a doctor or something, so I paid way too much for my degree. But of course, in the end, it was my decision to go to school. So it's my responsibility to pay it off. I don't push the responsibility off on anyone else. So you know what? I've taken the responsibility to pay it off, and that's what we've done. So the other thing we did along the way was we bought a car, because we actually had 2 cars break down on us in about, I think it was in a month. I think it might have been within a month that we had 2 cars break down on us. And I was using my cars for work back then, so that was really difficult. So we were maybe not in the best mindset to make a decision on that, but I know getting a reliable car just sounded amazing at that point. I was using it for work, so seemed like it was a decent thing to do. So yeah, that was about $14,000 that we paid for a car. So then that added together to the debts of the college. But we didn't have any credit card or personal loans or anything like that. It was all school and just this one car.
I was very fortunate to not have any college debt. My parents saved for us kids, for me and my siblings. But there was kind of a limit. And so they did let us know that if we went to a really expensive school, then we would probably have to pay for some of it. So it was kind of in our minds to find a very affordable college. My siblings are older than me, and where they went was great. So I followed in their footsteps and went where they did. And I was in Res Life to help pay for my housing and had jobs as well. So to put towards that. So I was very fortunate to come out of college with no debt.
Especially because you married me.
Yeah,
so.
And then I married Kyle.
You didn't want to have 2 debts coming into it. Yeah, for people that have 2 debts, yeah, that is a tough thing. Well, maybe your 2 debts make up what my one debt was, so...
It made me very extra grateful for what my parents had done, and I'm now very motivated to try and save.
All right, so question number 2, how was I dealing with it before we got married? I was self-employed, so I was making okay money. It wasn't great, but it was okay at the time, and I was also living at home, so that was obviously a huge difference in how much I would be paying if I was living somewhere else and having to pay for it. So my loan payment was about $850 a month, and that was a lot just interest and paying interest for those loans, so that was very depressing. So I refinanced some of those loans because some of them were at 9.5%. Those were terrible. So I found a better rate that I think was around 6%. And then I think that dropped my monthly payment to around $620. So I was paying $850. So that dropped it quite a bit, but I just decided I would still keep that minimum payment and not drop that from there. I'd still keep paying the $850. But before we got married, I probably got it down to around $80,000 in student loan debt, and that was before we had bought the car. Question number 3, how did us getting married change things? Well, it definitely helped with 2 incomes, so that definitely helps a lot.
Yeah, we I mean, you were really good at like merging our budgets together and just being very frugal.
In the first year of marriage, we didn't want to be super tight because obviously it's a first year of marriage. We actually got that advice from a lot of people not to be so focused on paying off debt to enjoy our first year. And I think in the end, that was good advice. Yeah. And actually this time we were saving to buy a house and not pay off our loans because we wanted to get a fixer-upper. I had a big background in contract work and handyman stuff. So we were going to try to get a fixer-upper, fix it up, and then hopefully have more money at the end to be able to pay off the debt, but then also have a house on top of it. And I think it probably would have been a better plan. I think it did make more financial sense in the end, and we'd probably have a higher net worth today if we had done that. But there was just some things that came up, and also it was more risky to do that than to just decide you're going to pay it off. But at that point, that's what we were doing, was we were trying to save for a house. Question number 4, what was our budget like? At the beginning, it was very, very small for most people. I know when we tell them what our budget was, people thought it was crazy. At one point, we only had $25 a week for entertainment. And I mean, that was like eating out or doing anything outside of just like our grocery budget. And that was really it. And our grocery budget was tiny. I think our grocery budget was
$50.
I think it was 50. Was it 50 a month?
No, I think it was 50 every 2 weeks. I think it was.
I think our grocery budget was 100 or less. It might have been less than $100 a month. We were spending like nothing. I mean, we were eating SpaghettiOs and everything cheap.
Yeah, spaghetti and shopping at Aldi because they're cheap. We still do and always will shop at Aldi. But yeah, it was a very tight budget. I will say it was frustrating sometimes when we wanted to go and do things, or one of us wanted to do it, but the other person was like, no, we have to stick to our budget.
Well, it was hard to figure out what we were going to spend our money on sometimes. Because when it's so small, we had to, I mean, that was like, if we wanted to go out to eat, we had to use like coupons, and we'd still spend our entire weekly budget. So it was tough. Side note, there was a time when we went to go to Red Lobster during this time. And got into the place, realized how expensive the menu was, and we told the waiter we had a family emergency and left.
Our emergency
and went to Friday instead.
Was we had no money.
Yeah, we could not afford Red Lobster, so yeah, we left.
Yeah, we went to Fridays and got some cheap appetizers instead.
I do think during this time it really helped us like learn though with stretching our money. So we like learned how to use discounts and coupons and shopping, just the cheapest ways that we can. So I think it did teach us a lot.
Yeah, we used a lot of coupons.
I signed up for a lot of like discount places. I used Cashback on like everything I could find. We bought gift cards at a discount before going places. Every trick we could use, we tried to save money.
Rewards, all of it.
Yeah. So that time was just a whole bunch. And even the whole time up to paying it off was just about like making the most out of what we could with what we had. And I think that's something that we learned that will probably carry over into the rest of our life, that I don't want to really forget. That, you know, you can really make the best out of a situation. And that was actually the inspiration for this channel. So, you know, that brought me to here. So the one thing that was a little bit separate outside of our budget during that time when the budget was really tight, that was still our first year of marriage. So what we did do so that we could still enjoy it was we love to travel. So I actually ran an eBay store, and I took some of the money that I would make with my eBay store and we put it into a travel fund. So we would travel about once a month to just like a new city or go camping or something. Still, it was very cheap. Like, we did not spend a lot of money at these places, and we tried to still cut prices as much as we could when we went traveling. But it was a fun time, and I really think that that made our first year of marriage really fun. So I still think we did the right thing doing that.
Yeah, I definitely think that was so worth it, and to have that to look forward to every month. And sometimes it was just going and staying with family, but doing a lot of stuff in a local area when we were with them, and it made a huge difference. And most of the time the weekly $25 entertainment allowance went towards the weekend, so when we got back that week, it was like
we had like nothing,
spaghetti for the whole week, but we made it worth it. And I mean, we had a lot of fun, so I recommend it. I think it's fun. You should do it.
Yeah. So question number 5 is, what factor did New York City play into our paying off our debt? So we actually did get to live in New York City for a little bit of our debt-free journey, which was amazing. It was a huge opportunity for us.
So yeah, I got the opportunity to work in New York City for 6 months. It was part of a project at my current job. And due to it being a short-term project, they put us up in housing. I also got a monthly stipend due to the fact that New York City is so expensive. But what was amazing is that because our housing was being paid for, we were able to save that money.
And what was really cool about this is that actually we were already planning on trying to move from Ohio, so we didn't renew the lease to our apartment in Ohio. So when this opportunity came up, we actually could just leave our apartment. And most people who were getting this opportunity had to continue paying like an apartment or a house payment or something back in Ohio because it was short term. But we actually didn't have to pay anything, so we got to live in downtown New York. They paid for our apartment there, and then we didn't have to pay for anything back home. So the stipend they were giving us, that was supposed to be for higher expenses in New York and also kind of paying towards I guess probably what was supposed to be your apartment back home or whatever it was you still had. We just got to save all that money. So that was awesome. So it gave us money that we were able to spend there and tons of money that we were able to save. And this was actually a great opportunity too for me because I was self-employed. So pretty much most of my business I was able to move. I was doing handyman stuff back in Ohio. So I did kind of have to cut that out to then go to New York, but I was doing an e-commerce business on eBay, so I could take most of that stuff with me, and then I just figured I'd try to find some type of job there. And I did end up finding a full-time job. I worked as a barista, actually like right off Wall Street, which was just a crazy experience. But yeah, I worked pretty much full-time there, and then I was getting their high New York pay, which was $15 minimum wage. So I was making what felt like a lot of money, and that was also tips too that were added to that $15. So it felt like I was making a ton of money for a barista job to be in New York. So it really worked out for us to save a lot of money during that time.
We increased our budget though when we lived in New York City. We were not like any longer on that 25.
We would not. We'd be able to do nothing. Yeah. Literally nothing.
That went way up.
Yeah, we had to increase our groceries budget. We had to increase our entertainment. We also had people visiting us all the time, so they always wanted to do stuff. So it was expensive to have people coming, but it was an amazing experience. And honestly, in the end, we were able to save so much money just because of the stipend and the extra work we were doing. You got a raise because you went there. So yeah, it really helped us out.
Yeah. And all this time we were still accumulating a lot of cash because at this point we were still planning on buying a house. So it was definitely very exciting to see the savings account increase. And, but we were spending more on entertainment and things, but we were doing things to still save money.
Still getting the coupons.
Still getting the coupons.
As much as we could.
We ordered from Walmart.com to get things shipped to us so we didn't have to pay the high New York, Manhattan costs of some of our groceries and paper goods and everything.
We did try to shop at Aldi, but it was about 45-minute train ride from us. So trying to get like frozen foods back and all this stuff.
On the train, on the subway, that's under construction. Don't do it.
It was not going to work, so we didn't do that very long. But obviously we realized this was a one-time experience and we just really had to make the most out of it. Again, this is kind of like the first year of marriage thing where it was like, it's not an excuse where we're just like, oh yeah, we're not going to pay off our debt. Like these were really one-time experiences. So we tried to make the most out of those and not be super tight with certain things, but still save as much as we could.
Just for a time frame on things, we celebrated our first year anniversary when we were in New York. We took a trip up to Connecticut and we spent some extra money.
And this part of our life was literally like a dream. Looking back on it, it's literally doesn't feel real. I mean, we lived in downtown New York in a high-rise apartment. We lived on the 23rd floor of a building that was like 60 floors tall, right across from the Freedom Tower. So we weren't paying for it. We were getting extra money every month, and we were both working full-time and making good money. So, I mean, this was just like unrealistic. This was just a short-term thing that was amazing.
Yeah, it was like a dream come true.
So in the end, this helped us save around $25,000 in the 6 months we were there, which is just crazy, but that's what we were able to do even with getting to enjoy ourselves there. But that money was meant to be saved for a house at the time, not for us to be paying off our debt. So question number 6, when did we decide to crack down on paying off our loans? So after New York, we moved to South Carolina, like we kind of had originally planned before the whole New York thing happened. And we looked for a cheap apartment because we really weren't looking for something nice at all. We were trying to save as much as we could, and we had about $40,000 for a down payment for a house. So we were just trying to find something short term. It was important to us to find a place we could break the lease because we were just trying to get to know the area that we were moving to and then find a house quickly so that we could buy it and start fixing it up. So that brings us to a short story, which is a long story, but I'll tell it in short, of a place that we lived at, actually down the street from where we live now. That ended up being literally like a slum. It was a bad place. It was covered in mold. It stunk when we got in there. The people were creepy. The property managers were really shifty. They were like trying to pull fast ones on us. Like once we signed our lease, suddenly there was a hole in the ceiling in the bathroom that had just appeared all of a sudden out of nowhere. So this was a terrible thing. We actually kind of threatened to like go to court and stuff over this because we decided, no, we're not living here. We took some samples of the mold so that we could like say we're going to go to court with it if they don't give us our money back. So that was a terrible experience. And luckily, like literally within a day, we went to an apartment complex down the street that was so much nicer. A little bit more. I mean, it was quite a bit more than what we were looking to pay, but it was still decently priced, especially for what they offered. And we decided to move in there. So we got that all figured out. And now we live still where we live right now.
Yeah. We were very fortunate to find this place only like a quarter of a mile down the road.
Yeah.
They had availability. We signed, and we had to move all of our stuff out of the crappy apartment over here.
Yeah,
and
we had moved so many times because we moved to New York, we moved back from New York, and then we moved to South Carolina, and then we had to move from that place to this place. So I was so sick of moving, which actually played into the next part of why we kind of decided to pay off our loans, because we really liked the apartment right now that we're in. So I knew I kind of wasn't in a rush to get out of it. We really liked the area. I knew that we were probably going to have to move farther out from the city if we bought a house. So I figured we could just enjoy living here for a little bit longer and just keep saving or whatever. And then I was watching a lot of Dave Ramsey around that time, and he really was getting to me. And I just decided, you know what? We can push the house back and let's go ahead and just pay off our debt.
Another factor, too, is that the apartment that we're currently still in, you do have to pay several months rent when you break the lease, and it was much more affordable to sign a 13-month lease as opposed to a 6-month or 9 or what have you, which was originally the time frame we were looking at moving in. So we just said, we'll do the 13-month. And
at that point, we had still planned to buy a house.
Yeah.
We just figured we're going to push back the time. But then while we were living here, it was so nice.
13 months is just so long to keep building cash
and
when you know that you have debt to pay off.
And Dave Ramsey just really got to me during that time because, it just really made me feel like, okay, we're sitting on all this money with a bunch of debt, and it would just be nice to start paying it off.
Yeah.
So after that, with one click, we paid $30,000 towards our loans, and that was probably one of the most impactful moments of this whole journey. Probably more impactful than actually getting out of it was that click of that button when we paid off $30,000 in one click. That was just crazy. All the money disappeared from our savings. We kind of had this like safety net that was there that we weren't really supposed to use, but it was like, it's still there.
Yeah.
And it was just gone. So it felt really weird. And from that point, the crackdown began.
It also just finalized like that the fact that we were not going to be buying a house anytime soon, and it was kind of a big shift in what we thought we would be doing. So it was definitely a big moment for us, but one that we've always been so grateful that we made.
And a couple months after that, I made a plan on my phone. I'll show you a little bit of it here, to pay off the whole debt. And it was in about a little over a year. So it was just a lot of like little things along the way to paying it off. Every little extra thing that we could get, we put it towards our loans. And it really added up over time.
We also made a spreadsheet. I think we used a template from Dave Ramsey, or we found like a avalanche versus a snowball debt payoff schedule, and that kind of made it more real too, to see if we work on the loans that have the highest interest, the difference that will make getting that done and paid off. And I think seeing the numbers and seeing the compound that it has when you really start to pay it off is huge.
I think when we made a plan in the end, it was like, well, this is the plan. Like, this is a realistic plan. We stick to it. We will pay off our debt in this timeline. So that's just what we did. We stuck to it.
And it was also realistic because of the small steps that we had been doing up until that point. It wasn't a drastic life change for us. It was just now very focused. This is what we're doing, and we can achieve it if we stick to the plan that we've set out.
And we were doing the avalanche method, so we kept trying to pay off the highest interest rate first, which we had a huge balance on the first highest interest rate. So that took a while to even get one of our loans paid off. And I see why people say the snowball plan is kind of good because you can get that motivation of paying little debts off and then moving it, progressing. But obviously paying off the bigger interest rate, you pay less over time. So that's what we did. In the minimum payment, no matter how many loans we paid off, we kept having that as the minimum payment and then put whatever extra on top of that we could, which was quite a bit more than the minimum payment every month. So question number 7, what was our budget like after deciding to pay it off? It was tight. We tried to cut anything we could. Anything, like literally anything.
But it wasn't as tight as $25 a week in entertainment.
Yeah,
when we came back from New York, we could not go back to $25 a month or a week.
When we came back from New York, we had some more money, so we did increase the budget a little bit more than what we had when it was super tight. But still, I mean, on anybody else's standards, our budget probably would look so tight. And it was. And also, there was a lot of times when we didn't even spend our budget. We would still save some of it and then put it towards our loans. That happened quite a bit. So we also made meal plans for cheap meals because that was something I felt like was a big thing. When you go out and buy groceries, we would make meal plans so that we could have cheap meals so that we weren't spending a ton on groceries. And that really worked. I think we really weren't spending that much. I think we were getting away with spending $100 a month and then not even using all the stuff when we really planned it out, which was awesome. Aldi.
Maybe not the healthiest of meals, but they weren't, unhealthy. And meal planning really did help just make sure that we knew what we needed in the grocery store, get it, and not a whole bunch of, ooh, that looks yummy, that looks good, oh, I'm sure I can do something with that. So we were very strict on what we were buying, and it definitely helped with the budget.
So also during this time, I know if you've watched any of my other videos about Grubhub, you might know that I was actually having to go up to Ohio to work because I couldn't work here for a while. So that was a very difficult thing for us. But we made that work, and I would actually go up there and I would work, and I would just work like crazy. There were some weeks where I was working like 15-hour days for like 10-day stretches and stuff just to make as much as I could while I was up there, so we'd have as much as we can to put towards our debt.
And it worked really well because I, with my job, I had to study and get a couple of exams and licenses. So I was able to really focus and study and do that. We also got a dog once we moved to South Carolina. So, so that kept me busy too when Kyle was gone.
Yeah, we did get a dog. So that wasn't the cheapest thing to do along the way. But that, honestly, that helped a lot with like our being at home and just like having fun at home, because partially we had to be home a lot when he was a puppy because you just have to be watching him all the time,
taking him on walks to the dog park. I mean, he's very entertaining. So it was. And also, we got a lot of his toys from the Dollar Tree, and his harness and his leash are still from the Dollar Tree.
We also did not pay that much for him. We shopped around and we found a good price for a dog. That was a good dog, not from a puppy mill, but
and everything. But
good price. So also during this whole time, I really watched our budget meticulously. I used an app called Good Budget, and I just really watched everything literally to the penny, every expense, every piece of income we had, to make sure it was all going to the right place to then be able to pay off our debt as much as we could.
And we also did use credit cards for things because you get the cashback.
Dave Ramsey wouldn't like that, but we got a lot of cash back along the way to be able to put towards it.
But we were paying it off. I mean, I think at one point you were paying it off weekly.
Yeah, I pay off the credit card like every day almost sometimes. I mean, we never carry a balance. It was just strictly for getting the cash back.
And we also live off our budget. Not what we see in the bank account.
We literally don't look at the bank account. It's whatever the bank account says doesn't matter at all for us, because that's just not at all what we really think we have.
Right. We try to always, like, if we know rent is coming up, we don't want to look at that and be like, oh, we have all this money, we can just spend it. And you're very good at, as soon as we make a purchase, Kyle will put that in the budget right away.
And honestly, this was like so many little decisions along the way that make up the whole big picture. I mean, literally to the point of like, we go out to Taco Bell, which we love Taco Bell, but it would be like hey, I'm not going to get this extra item that's $1. Like all those little times that we did those things, those really do add up over time and make a lot of money. So yeah, I'm glad that we could do those little things along the way.
Yeah, like packing my lunch for work, and
those are big decisions.
Yeah, those that adds up so much. We have gone so many days without spending a penny, outside of expenses that may come out of the account. But it's very easy for Kyle and I just to not swipe the card or spend money.
So question number 8, how did the pandemic affect us? I would say that it actually may have helped us in some ways because Elizabeth's job wasn't actually affected. You did work from home for a little bit, but still your pay wasn't affected. The only impact really would have been on me because Grubhub really got a lot better at the beginning, and then it got a lot worse. So it started to become really bad working. Even to this point today, it's still like not the greatest up there. I think it's kind of recovering somewhat, but it was just really slowing down.
Yeah, we weren't going out nearly as much, obviously.
Yeah, and if we did, it was like we get takeout, and then it was like, hey, we don't have to pay a tip, or like I don't know. It was like we didn't spend as much.
We did. At the beginning, we definitely were trying to do like takeout and still support local businesses and things, but it was a lot less expensive than going out.
One of the ways it also actually helped us is that the student loan interest was set to 0. So that saved us a lot of money that we would have had to pay towards interest. It actually gave us some flexibility where we could pay off our car sooner than paying off the student loans because the student loans were a higher rate. Some of them were a higher rate than the car. So we just could then focus solely on the car, which the car didn't give us any tax deductions like the student loan interest does. So that just really worked out in our benefit that happened. In the end, it probably still hurt us a little bit just because my job was kind of impacted and it probably did add up over time more than what we saved. But that's really not too bad for obviously some people have been affected with.
We were very fortunate that we did not have a huge financial loss because of everything going on.
And we were able to get the stimulus check at one point, and maybe a second one. So that definitely helped us pay off more of our debt because we literally just took that stimulus check and stuck it right into the debt. We didn't even do anything with it, which isn't really the point of a stimulus check, but I guess we stimulated the bank.
But now we're getting to go to Cancun.
Yeah, now we're going to stimulate the economy.
So,
question number 9. How long did it take to pay off our debt and how much did we pay off? Well, since the time I took my first loan, my freshman year was 9 years. And then I was in school for 4 years after that, actually like 4.5. Because I finished early at college, but then I finished late because I was taking online classes. So it's kind of a confusing situation. So it was actually more like 5 years after I graduated that I was like really paying off the debt when it was out of deferment. But I had that debt for obviously 9 years. And it was a little under 2 years that we really cracked down when we paid that initial $30,000, about 2 years that it took us to pay off really from that point. So in the end, the amount we paid counting our car and my student loan interest, it's a little hard to calculate because I don't have the statements or anything from my old accounts that I refinanced from the beginning. So I can't really see exactly what it was we paid, but I think on my estimates, we paid about $125,000 in total, counting the interest and everything we paid along the way. Question number 10. What did it feel like to pay it off finally after 9 years of having loans? To me, it was really weird. It's still taking time for it to be real. I don't really feel like we're debt free. Like I still kind of just feel like, no, that's not true. Like we gotta keep working. I still have debt to pay.
For me, it still seems a little unreal. I think like the first couple months of when we were married, I was kind of like in denial that we had so much.
Oh yeah.
That we had like so much to pay off. But then when we really like cracked down, it was like, okay, this is what we're doing. We're doing it. Now that it's gone, I think it just hasn't been long enough to live without it yet, so I'm not really sure how it feels. It does feel great to know that that is no longer there, but I don't think like we're reaping the benefits yet of it.
Yeah, we haven't changed our budget yet on things. We will soon, but we haven't changed it yet. So that'll start to make it feel a lot different once we do that. We actually paid off our debt 3 months earlier than our original plan stated we were going to pay it off, which was awesome. And we were supposed to have an extra paycheck to help pay off our debt. So now that extra paycheck that'll be coming soon is just ours. It doesn't need to go anywhere. So that's going to be awesome.
It does feel good just to have that like burden gone and know that like it is paid off, and we are now, the money that we make is for us to decide how we use it. And that is a great feeling.
It felt along the way the whole time like none of our money was ours. It always felt like, yeah, this isn't our money because we have debt. So, and I think it's going to be hard to get out of that mindset, because it's like, it's really weird to go from that to, even if we save for a house, like that's our money. That'll be our asset that we own. That's our money. So that's going to be hard to like get that into our mindset and make that be real.
And to actually be buying something versus just like sending the money off and
just
saying bye-bye.
burning the money. Yeah, we'll actually be getting something for our money now, not just like giving it somewhere that we don't get anything.
You got your
I already
education,
got the return, but I did it in film. I mean, what the heck is that going to do for me?
Not much. Just kidding.
Question number 11. Did we celebrate paying it off? Yes.
Heck yeah.
We had the plan from the very beginning. Actually, written in our original plan was to go to the melting pot the day of. We ended up just going the week of because they had a special on Wednesday. So we went on Wednesday because it was unlimited.
We still are in that mentality.
Yeah, let's still.
It's worth it though.
I still want to get discounts. I'm not going to go crazy though. But we went to the melting pot and we got like everything. We got the full smorgasbord. We got the 4-course.
Full smorgasbord.
We got the 4-course meal. We got like a wine pairing with each course. We got cocktails. It was great. We had a lot of fun there, and I think that really did help too. Kind of like stick it in that we've paid off our debt, and this is our celebration, because we talked about that for years. So that really did kind of help it settle in some. So the other thing we were supposed to do to celebrate is we were supposed to go on a debt-free cruise. We talked about that for a while, and then the pandemic hit, and we were supposed to go to Carnival, which they are not doing so well right now, and they wasn't 2 cruises that kind of came down with stuff. So yeah, that didn't seem like a great idea, but we are still going to go to a resort, and that's the resort that we actually went to for our honeymoon. So that seemed a little bit safer than going on a cruise, and I don't even know if cruises are really running right now, but yeah, that's still going to be really fun, and we're gonna have a great time there.
Yeah, fingers crossed it's open when we go. But yeah, we've got that scheduled, and I think having that like also makes it feel more real too, because that's something that we've been saying that we're gonna do once we become debt free. So I think when we're there, it's gonna feel great.
And we've also paid for that trip, so that's paid off. That's not like on a loan or credit either. So
then we wouldn't be debt free.
Yeah. And you might be saying, "What are you doing with your money? You're going crazy now." But no, I think this is really important to celebrate when you get debt free. I think it's a really important thing to enjoy some big thing that you can really appreciate what you did.
I think for us too, we've always been in the mentality of saving, whether it be for a house, whether it be because it's going towards loans. And so for us, we know that there's no like back steps, I guess, to take. So we know we're not putting ourselves in a dangerous situation where now we're just going to go spend like crazy, because that's something that's still very important to us. And
obviously,
we're savers. So
when we went to the melting pot, we're still like getting discounts.
Yeah.
It's just
we still got discounts on our resort. So
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, the resort was like way cheaper because of the pandemic. So we didn't even spend like as much. So question number 12, what now? Now
we spend it all.
So now we will raise our budget a little bit, not like crazy. It's literally just still going to be a little bit, but enough that we don't feel like we're so tight all the time, where we don't have to feel like when we go out with people, they're like, oh, they got to like save money and they can't do stuff. Like, we
don't want to be those people anymore.
Yeah,
we've been them for long enough.
Fun. Yeah, so we'll raise it a little bit, still be saving a good amount, but
we're going to have a set amount that we know for sure that we're saving each month too. And I think that's really important, that you save first before you spend first. And so that'll still be a priority. But yeah, I'm excited to have a little more spending money. Honestly, just money for groceries. I'm excited for that.
Yeah. No more beans. Oh, wait. No, I'm still going to eat lots of beans. I love beans. We're also going to buy a lot of those things we neglected, like socks. I have a lot of holes in my socks and just like stuff that was like, oh, it's just these little purchases that we're just trying to save everywhere. Like if we can get by, just like don't buy it right now. So there's a lot of stuff like Tyson. We need to get him some toys. Our dog, we got him when we were saving. So he needs like a tag. He doesn't even have a dog tag yet. So we need to give him a dog tag. And he doesn't have like a proper bed yet. He sleeps with us at night, but he doesn't have like his own like bed in the family room. So he usually sits on the couch. So it's really not that big of a deal, but stuff he would like to have that. So yeah, we'll get him some stuff and we'll get some little things around the house. And the other thing we're doing is obviously we're going to enjoy our trip, our debt-free trip. It's going to be awesome. And then we're also going to take a month off from saving. So we're not going to save money. It's just going to go to us. It's going to go to stuff we need around the house, like a couch. We have the world's worst couch in our family room. It is so bad. It's like a hand-me-down between like 4 people, I think. Maybe even more than that, actually.
All
and
people
it's just,
we know.
Yeah, and it's all just like totally worn in. There's like no cushions. Usually I sit on a pillow on top of it. So what's the purpose of the couch? So just some stuff like that. We'll take off a month to just save all the money we make. And then, well, not save it. We'll take off a month and not save it. See, I'm so ingrained in this. I can't not
I don't
save
even
it.
know if we'll be able to do that. How are we going to spend that much money? I don't think so.
We will find stuff.
I don't think so.
So we'll enjoy that money and get to put it towards stuff that we've just needed for a while now. And then after that, we will start saving again to buy a house that we're going to fix up. So we'll kind of be back to the same pattern. We're not trying to get too far out of it because we still need to save to get our first house. I think that's a big thing to do. So yeah, that's what we'll be saving for, just a little bit less tight than what we were before. All right, the last question number 13. What is the biggest advice we have to those paying off debt? My first piece of advice would be the little things add up. I really think when you look back at all the debt we paid, there's a lot of those $5 here, $5 there, even like $1 here, $1 there. That stuff really adds up over time. You can't take anything for granted. Every penny saved is a penny that you can pay towards your loans. And
penny earned.
Penny earned is a penny towards your loans. That's not as
penny saved
fun.
is a penny earned.
A penny saved is a penny gone to your loans. My second piece of advice would be to make a realistic plan and stick to it. And emphasis on realistic, because you can't just say, I'm going to pay $5,000. Well, I mean, unless you can pay $5,000, but if you're going to be like, I'm going to pay $5,000 a month and then just keep doing this, I'll be done in no time. Like, you need to be able to make sure the income you're making and your expenses, that you're able to have that kind of money to pay it off. If you can do that, great. Try to pay off as much as you can, but try to keep it realistic.
Yeah, I mean, know what your expenses are and how much you need to live before saying you're going to, make that goal of paying $5,000 off. Make sure that you can still pay for your rent and everything.
My third piece of advice is to surround yourself with supportive people. And I think that's really important. And we were blessed with that because our friends, even though they might kind of be like, oh, they're like always being so tight, like nobody really gave us crap about it. Everyone kind of knew like what we were doing. We were trying to pay off debt, and like we were trying to save as much as we could.
Yeah, and that we had so much of it, so they understood why we were maybe being a little more tight. But also our friends too all of them are very focused on paying off any student loans that they may have as well. So I think that also really helps to have people along the same path that you're on too.
Yeah, a lot of our good friends just actually got debt-free or about to be debt-free. So they were kind of like on the same path with us and really understood what we were doing. But I think that's really important because you don't want to be around people that are just constantly pushing you to like, let's go out and spend $100 at like a restaurant tonight. Like, that stuff is just going to be hard. And I would just recommend you try to keep yourself around supportive people, or at least people that are understanding of what you're trying to do. So my next piece of advice is probably one that I would say is actually one of my biggest, and that's just think creatively. And that's just to think creatively. Creatively. And that is just to think creatively. I can't say it. And that is just to think creatively about fun. Sometimes the most fun things are free, and that's really, I think, what we learned around the way. He can't talk. That's what we learned the whole time that we were doing this, is that you can have fun without having to spend a bunch of money. And that's really what I want this channel to be, is to show people ways that you can have fun, ways that you can make money, and all these kind of things. Just be creative and not be blowing your money, and be able to reach your financial goals. The other piece of advice I would say, and we kind of talked about this before, is just to celebrate the little goals along the way and stay excited. Celebrating those goals are really important. Just making like little goals that you can meet, whether that's paying off a loan or like paying off a certain amount or whatever it is. Just doing something fun. Maybe that's a day where you go out and you spend a little more. Maybe you're not as tight that day to just go out and celebrate. Don't be crazy. And if you have a spending problem, maybe really be careful with that. But staying excited and driven on paying it off is really a big thing that you're going to need. My next piece of advice is just really encouragement. The end will come sooner than you think.
Not necessarily.
That's not what...
The end will come sooner than you think.
The end will come sooner than you think. Be prepared.
Oh my gosh.
Like, hold on, we gotta finish this. We can't get out of control. My next piece of advice is really just encouragement, and that is the end will come if you and that is the end will come if you stick to your plan. It's not, babe, I had it that time.
So sorry, I looked up. I'm just gonna look down here this time.
It really will come, and it will probably come sooner than you think if you're sticking to it. Stop laughing. And it will honestly probably come faster than you think if you really are trying to stick to that plan, because along the way you get more motivated as you go, and you just try to find stuff. Like, I mean, we were like selling things, and we were just trying to make as much money as we could to just get it done. So don't worry, the end will come. I know it seems like it's so far away and you'll never be at that point, but trust us, we're an example right here. It will come. Do you have any other advice for them?
I would just say two things. One is stick to your budget. There were a lot of times at the beginning when I would just say to Kyle, oh, I spent $20 over at the grocery store, but we needed the groceries, or whatever it may be. And Kyle would say, where's that money coming from, though? It has to come from somewhere. And I'm like, well, it's in the bank account, like, you know. So, but just sticking to that budget, because that money does have to come from somewhere. If I spend $20 extra in groceries, that means that has to be deducted from gas or from rent, and that would be terrible. I
think that's why, like, using the Good Budget or any kind of app, like, or maybe it's the envelope system. The Good Budget is basically like the cash envelope system that Dave Ramsey talks about, but in a digital form. That really helps you, because it was like when she would spend over, or I would spend over, the envelope would go red, and the it would give you a frowny face. It gives you a frowny face.
You don't want to see the frowny face.
I mean, you know, it's like, oh, you know, it can't be in the negatives. And it would say, seems like there's a problem here.
Yeah. So I would just say stick to the budget, make a plan that is doable, and stick to it. Second of all is that if you're married, it's very important that you are on the same page with your spouse. There's no way we could have done this if it was just one of us that was motivated. You have to both be on the same page and keep talking about it, because it excites you when you do talk about it. And it keeps you on the same page, and it keeps you honest, and it keeps you just moving towards that common goal that you have.
Yeah, there was a lot of times where we would just like sit in bed at night, and I would fill in Elizabeth on like where we were with our debt, how much we had paid off, and maybe some things that were coming up, just to try to motivate her and excite her about where we were. Because I was the one kind of running all the stuff, so I was the one seeing it and being excited about it. So,
but then he also talked to me about it and would say, "Hey, like, we've got this expense coming up. Like, what?" It wasn't just him making all the decisions and letting me know about it. It was a team effort in looking at things and redoing the budget to make things work for whatever had come up, or for whatever it may be.
You have to be flexible a lot during this, because stuff will come up. Big expenses will come up, and you have to figure out where you're going to take from that. and try to make it not impact your paying off your debt as much as you can, and take
Right.
it from other places.
Right.
And my last piece of advice is just to watch this channel and subscribe to this channel for fun ways to save money and to make money, and just make the most out of life without spending a bunch. So guys, I would love to hear what your debt-free journey is, what part of it you're on. Even if you haven't even started it yet, I'd love to hear in the comments whether you're starting it, you're in it right now, or you've already done it, and what your journey was. I would love to hear from you guys, so comment down below. But thank you guys so much for watching. I know this was a long one, but yeah, there's just a lot to talk about with a debt-free journey. You can't really make it super short. So if you guys like the video, go ahead and do the cheapest thing you can today. It's cheaper than paying off your debt, that's for sure, and that is to go ahead and tap that like button. Also subscribe to the channel. I do a lot of videos about entrepreneurship and saving, like I said, just fun things. There's a bunch of videos coming up more down the road, so subscribe to the channel. And remember guys, stay cheap and pay off that debt.
That's cheap. You still haven't subscribed? Oh